Hello guys, my name's Fireguy and welcome back to another edition of Fireguy's Predictions. It's kind of embarrassing how many times I had to retake this little intro here. The first time I just completely blanked on the name of my own show. Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing. And then second time my phone rang, and now hopefully this time it actually works properly. Thankfully it wasn't 20 minutes into the video or the podcast audio column, whatever you want to call it, or else that would have been some severe editing on my part to do. But anyways, welcome to Fireguy's Predictions. It's time again for another audio column from me. As we know, Under Pressure, the next big TV pay-per-view produced by Impact, is coming up this Thursday, and as always, I always like to make one of these whenever a big pay-per-view or a big event comes around for Impact Wrestling, to kind of give my points and views on where the company's heading as a wrestling company. That was really poor sentence structure there, but oh well. So this card, we have up to now 5 matches announced at the time of me making this audio column. There might be more coming out later, but 5 matches seems suitable for a 2-hour regular show of Impact that's just a TV pay-per-view. So basic show, how it works is that I basically have a brief summary of the storyline leading up to this match at this TV pay-per-view, in this case Under Pressure, and then I give my predictions on the match itself, and then I'll predict where the storyline, the feud, or whatever both or multiple people in the match are going to be doing moving on in Impact Wrestling. So obviously too, I'll keep my overall thoughts for the TV pay-per-view at the end. Sometimes I like to talk about it a bit throughout my video, but I usually try to keep the main points towards the end. But without further ado, let's get right into it, guys, with the first match and the most recently announced match that thus far. It's Eli Drake versus Scott Steiner. So yes, we're having a singles match with Scott Steiner in it in 2018. We can all deal with it, I guess. I mean, I'm that kind of fan that likes Steiner's mic work. It's a guilty pleasure, but I mean, like, are you really a wrestling fan if you don't enjoy Steiner's mic work? But anyways, there's not much story to this. I feel like they rushed into this match a bit too quickly, in my opinion. We haven't really seen too much disputing between the two. So basically what happened, they won the tag titles from LAX at Redemption, and so it was a successful cash-in on Eli Drake's part because it was a Feast or Fire briefcase. Since then, they've been defending the championships, and then all of a sudden they start disagreeing. Scott Steiner accidentally hit a chair shot on Eli Drake, which cost him the titles against Z&E. And since then, they've just been arguing backstage. Mackenzie Mitchell was trying to interviewing Z&E, but they got involved, and they just keep arguing with each other, and now it's their breaking point, I guess. I still feel like we haven't seen enough to truly show that they're no longer a team. It was just a bit of bickering here and there, nothing that bad. But I guess they hate each other now, so they're having a match. So yeah, this is, I don't know how to say it to you. This is more than clear. It's clearer than day. Like the expression, as clear as day, you know? It's clearer than that Eli Drake has to win here. If he loses against Scott Steiner, that is the biggest misuse of a wrestler I've ever seen in a very long time. Like, this is Eli Drake's match to win, and this is just another way to keep Eli Drake's momentum going, because even if we don't want to admit it, Scott Steiner is still a rather big name, and Eli Drake getting a win over him can get a bit of a rub off of Scott Steiner. So overall here, Eli Drake wins this. But it's going to be interesting to see where they go with Eli Drake moving forward. I feel like this is their... I understand that some of this stuff got cut and changed at the last minute. Supposedly the Eli Drake and Penta feud was supposed to last a bit longer than it did. It just lasted like a week on TV. It wasn't even really a feud. but it got cut out and stuff like that, and that's why they relied more on the tag team situation stuff. So moving on, I have no idea what they would do with Eli Drake. As we know, the only reason why he was at these tapings, if I remember correctly, was because of the 2-month extension. I'm not sure if he signed it before or at the end of these tapings, but either way, even if it's the beginning of these tapings or the end of these tapings, it's 2 months are almost over, you know? So it's going to be very interesting to see if Impact will be doing something with Eli Drake for the rest of these Orlando taping, because this is not the end. I was mistaken. I mentioned on the website to a few of you guys on Impact Asylum that I thought this was the last episode we'd be seeing from Orlando before Windsor, but no, supposedly there's a few more episodes left. So who knows? Maybe Eli Drake will just take the back seat, but that's really, really bad for business. I'm surprised that Don Callis and Scott D'Amore, it seems like they don't see how talented Drake is. Like, I feel like he's fallen down the card just a bit, and I feel like they need to keep him on TV, chasing for at least some kind of title to keep him on TV, because he is just golden. I hope they don't let the opportunity slip between their fingers here. His contract's up. They need to give him some kind of whatever he wants. They should give it to him at this point. They cleared up what, $400,000 with Alberto Patron's contract. So why not fork over some of that money to him? Like, I get that they're tight on money, but I mean, you just freed up $400,000 from a contract. Might as well spend it on a bunch of other contracts, plurally, you know, instead of just absorbing it into your own pocket and using it on other things. Like, I get that maybe that $400,000 might be put to other uses, but I feel like their main priority here should be locking down Eli Drake before he jumps ship to WWE. But now we're getting way off hand here. That was far away from predicting the match here. Meanwhile, on Scott Steiner's part, he was only there for the Orlando tapings. He only comes once in a while to those tapings anyways, so I feel like this is the last we'll see of him on TV. Maybe we'll see a bit of a closure next week where they argue a bit more and then Scott Steiner leaves, but I think this is one of the last appearances we'll see from Scott Steiner, at least for the next few bits, as we head to Windsor and then to Toronto for Slammiversary. So let's move on to the next match here, guys, and it's Brian Cage versus Desmond Xavier, X Division number 1 contender match. So basically, this was a bit of a thrown together match. Bits and pieces came from literally everywhere. For this match, Brian Cage is on his big World Tour Domination squash spree thing, squashing people from Australia to Japan to Canada, basically all over the place, and that's earned him an X Division number 1 contenders match, I guess. And meanwhile, Desmond Xavier managed to get into this match by defeating Petey Williams last week in a singles match, and the commentary said that if whoever won this match would be facing Brian Cage. The X Division number 1 contender stipulation didn't come in until a few days later on social media, so definitely more interesting now that things it's up the ante a bit here. One thing that I did mention in my hot fire this week was I liked how commentary did a good job at explaining why in the hell Desmond Xavier or Petey Williams would want to face Brian Cage if there's no stipulation, nothing to gain out of it besides maybe momentum. That's more of a WWE thing. But like, now that they had the X Division stipulation, it makes a bit more sense as to why Desmond Xavier would want to take on Brian Cage, who is still undefeated in Impact Wrestling. So obviously here, this is another one which is clear as day. Brian Cage is just going to absolutely destroy Desmond Xavier. Obviously, I know Desmond Xavier will have those hope spots spread throughout the match because they're obviously just going to let Desmond Xavier go crazy out there. He just needs to show off his talent. Like, this kid is tremendous in the ring, and it would be dumb of Impact if Cage went through Xavier in the matter of a few minutes without having some kind of spectacle going on in the ring. Because both men here, even Cage's size, we've seen it, he can hit some crazy spots. So let these two go for at least 10 minutes and it'd be a really, really fun match. But what's also interesting here is trying to predict where these two will go afterwards. Obviously, this is the X Division we're talking about, so Desmond Xavier, I feel like he's just going to float back down to wherever he came from and not be spoken of for a few weeks on TV until he's brought back. People were thinking that he didn't have the title shot by Slammiversary, but now if he wins this contendership now, here, we still have more than, I'd say, about 8 weeks before Slammiversary. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they manage this number one contender spot. If Brian Cage is going to be stubborn, play it smart, keep it for himself until he cashes it in. Like, it all depends. Like, sometimes they do those storylines where they wait to cash in their contendership, which is a bit weird. But anyways, so who knows? Maybe Brian Cage will just have to face Matt Sydal in a regular Impact, win the title, and maybe we'll have a rematch at Slammiversary. It's all predictions. People at Impact Asylum were saying that they wanted Matt Sydal versus Brian Cage at Slammiversary. Maybe we'll still get it, but it might be the roles that are reversed with Brian Cage being champion and Matt Sydal wanting his rematch. So basically here, this is another easy match to predict. It's more so just the aftermath and where these two will be heading is a bit harder to predict since we are talking about the X Division here, and they still haven't done too much to define a direction for this division yet. I'm talking about Impact Wrestling and management and creative team here. So let's move on now to the third of 5 matches here. So this is Tessa Blanchard versus Madison Rayne. So basically, yet again here, there's a small story coming out of this. Tessa Blanchard and Kiera Hogan were feuding for a bit. Madison Rayne came onto commentary for knockouts action, not like she usually does, but she came back for the first time ever to call knockouts action like she used to do, and she just didn't agree with how Tessa Blanchard was bullying the whole knockouts division. So she faced Tessa in the ring after the match, and now they're having a match at Under Pressure. So the one thing I absolutely love here is how Impact is building up Tessa Blanchard. This is how you do it. She went through someone like Kiera Hogan, which, it's not going to give you the biggest boost in momentum in the world since Kiera hasn't really defined herself in Impact Wrestling yet, but it's still a win. A win is a win no matter how you see it. Now she's moving up to the next person in line, which is Madison Rayne, who has the legacy to back her up, but hasn't been quite active in Impact Wrestling and has fallen down the card quite a bit. So she's still not the top of the food chain, but she has the legacy behind her that's going to boost Tessa even more. So yet again, like I just basically hinted to there, Tessa Blanchard wins this match without a doubt. They'd be dumb to give the win to Madison Rayne. They need to slowly keep building Tessa up here. They're building her up the same way than Cage, except in a bit better fashion, if you ask me, with the little stories tied in instead of having random squash matches. So obviously here, Tessa wins hands down. It would be I hope the Impact gives them time to shine, because these two women are quite talented and definitely could put on a good performance if Impact allows them to. I get that Under Pressure was filmed, I think, quite late into the taping cycle, because we are quite late into the Orlando taping cycle. So who knows? Maybe they're not going to be as fresh as the start of the tapings. That's fine. But still, they can. I believe in them. They could easily pull off quite a good match at Under Pressure. So where things go from there is yet again quite interesting. I feel like Madison Rayne is just going to go mind her own business. She's going to keep calling action when the knockouts have matches, and that's about it. She'll say, oh, yeah, Tessa beat me. Oh, well, because she plays that kind of character where she's very respectful and all that stuff. Meanwhile, Tessa Blanchard, I feel like she's going to keep moving up the card, but we're running out of people to feud with here, to keep building her up, And that's just due to injuries. Sienna's out with an injury, Rosemary's out with an injury, and Sienna would be the actual next viable option to keep building up the card, because Sienna is in that mid-level in the knockouts division where she's not at the top of the food chain right now, but she wasn't at the bottom either. She was right in the middle, but due to injuries, we haven't seen her in quite a bit in Impact. So that would have been the logical choice. Maybe they'll go with Taya as the next mini feud to keep building Tessa up, but they need to watch out for on Taya's behalf if they do that match, because Taya has been on a losing streak for quite a while now. I get that she might not come to Canada because if we can base ourselves off of what happened when she tried to get to Ottawa, she couldn't do it because of visa issues. And with I think she's getting married during the Windsor tapings, if I'm not mistaken, so she probably won't be there. But even then, they still need to watch out and not make her lose too much, because she's the queen of lucha. She's supposed to be super hardcore. She stuck up with the lengths of that makes no sense. She stuck up to Rosemary. She handled Rosemary for quite a bit, got wins over Rosemary, and then now she's just been on a losing streak. So I don't think that's the most wisest choice to do, but it's the only choice they really have, unless they want Tessa to go straight after Su Yung and Ali, who are the other two members of the Knockouts division currently. So that's it for that match, and let's move on to the two big matches of Under Pressure here, guys. And this one is for the Knockouts Championship. Ali defends her title against Su Yung in a rematch from Redemption, except this time it is a last rites match, which is just a fancy way of saying casket match. So I made the joke on Impact Asylum, guys, on the Impact Weekly forum, saying I was getting a bit flashbacks of Phoenix versus Mil Muertes from Lucha Underground when they had their grave consequences match and then their graver consequences match. Obviously, I treated that way since the storyline is in its own Lucha Underground pocket universe where there's powers and stuff like that, which is really cool to see in Impact, that they've adopted that cinematography style and that sci-fi / fantasy style of writing, which really suits a character like Su Yung, and definitely adds some crazy characters to Impact Wrestling. So definitely here, I'm really excited for this match, super excited. I definitely know both women, yet again, can put out an awesome match if given the chance to do so. So usually casket matches, some people are a fan of them, some people are not, because they're one of the tougher gimmicks to have a proper wrestling match in. So hopefully these two girls can pull it off. Definitely, I feel like they will. I wouldn't be surprised if they do pull off some Lucha Underground shenanigans throughout the match, like the lights going on and off, the Su Yung followers, the ghost girls, whatever they're called, causing Ali the Lost or something like that. Not causing Ali the Lost, but messing around with Ali. But I just legit said my prediction right there. I feel like Ali's gonna retain yet again here, just because of how it was presented, this match. So basically, if we head back here, how this whole match came to be, Rosemary was absolutely destroyed by Su Yung. She was put into a casket, and in that casket was burned in the funeral 2 weeks ago. Since then, Ali has gone a bit cuckoo. Rosemary's taken over her body, and last we've seen of Ali, she had a cross in one hand, a letter in the other hand, a mirror in front of her full of blood, writing in blood, and then she had Rosemary's face paint on. And she was the one that basically said, Rosemary's not going to agree with this, but I have to do it. So that insinuates that she made this match a casket match. So she's using Su Young's game against her, and that's what the big story is going to be here. So obviously here I'll see Su Yung winning. So now that I think about it, I wouldn't be upset if Su Yung won, because they need to keep her strong, and her defeating both Rosemary and Ali would do so. But then that just completely destroyed the whole Ali character of becoming super strong and possessed by Rosemary, and then her losing her first match as the real actual Demon Bunny. Then that'd be kind of lame. So I feel like, yet again, this exact same match, Impact have booked themselves into another corner. They're between a rock and a hard place yet again, and it's gonna be hard to see if they can get out of it. I don't think that this time around is as bad as their match at Redemption, but they're still stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Hopefully Ali does retain the title. But I honestly see Su Yung now that I think about it, winning it, and then Rosemary hopefully making her return in time for Slammiversary where they have their big. So now that we're talking about that, let's go see. I'll give my predictions on what's going to be happening later on for these two. Ali, of course. It all depends on who wins this. So I feel like Ali and Su Yung are definitely going to keep feuding all the way through the Windsor tapings probably until Rosemary does make her return. Definitely we'll see who gets the upper hand in this match. If Su Yung dominates, then of course it's going to be the whole game of Ali trying to get the title back for Rosemary and trying to avenge her. Meanwhile, if Ali retains, it's just Su Yung going to keep tormenting Ali, and Ali keep trying to fight back as Rosemary possesses her. So it all depends on who they go with this match. I'm leaning towards Ali a bit more than Su Yung, but I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled the handle on a Su Yung title run. So let's move on now to the last match, the main event of Under Pressure here, guys. It is Pentagon Jr. defending his Impact World Heavyweight Championship in a singles match. That's the first. No, that's not the first time in Impact. Never mind. What am I saying? He went against Eli Drake. Okay, take that back. Pentagon Jr. versus Impact. What am I saying? The Impact World Heavyweight Champion, Pentagon Jr., defending against Austin Aries. So we saw their triple threat at Impact Wrestling versus Lucha Underground show. It was great. We saw the triple threat that they had at Redemption. It was great. A singles match between these two, it's going to be great. So definitely if they give these guys 15 to 20 minutes, it's definitely going to be very, 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 very good. The story leading up to this, was quite lacking. I feel like Impact messed around with the tapings a bit too much. Supposedly things were changed last minute. Stuff was cut. Stuff was added. And I feel like it really killed the flow of the main event scene, especially when it came to the world title. We got more interactions between Eli Drake and Pentagon Jr. than we got between Austin Aries and Pentagon, if you ask me. So definitely I feel like this is just more so of a rematch clause kind of match here. But it'll definitely be interesting to see who comes out on top. I get that this was filmed weeks ago, so Impact can't keep track. Like the surveys that we fill out every week don't really serve a purpose to Impact until the next taping, since everything's so taped in advance. So hopefully they're aware that many people, especially at Impact Asylum, aren't really clicking with the Pentagon Jr. character because he's had so little character development in Impact, besides saying Zero Miedo and having that weird chocolate talk with Phantasma before their match 2 weeks ago. But anyways, so yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to see who takes this. Definitely, I feel like Pentagon will retain here because Impact see lots of good things in Pentagon. They're not wrong. I see lots of good things in Pentagon. I've followed him throughout the years on Lucha Underground, and plenty of people at Impact Asylum as well have done the same thing as me. It's just the way he's been presented in Impact is very lackluster. So meanwhile, on the other hand, Austin Aries is the Impact Grand Champion. I'm surprised they haven't burned that title yet, and that might be the path they want to take. Maybe Austin Aries grabs the title back and then unites both titles together to make it the ultimate world title, like he calls it, because he considers the Grand Championship the second world title of Impact as well. So, but definitely here that's the more nonsense route. Obviously here Pentagon Jr. No, not obviously, but I'd say that Pentagon Jr. here retains. Where these two men go from here, I have no idea. They're just going to keep floating around the main event scene, around the title. Hopefully now that Moose is done with Congo Kong, maybe he'll get back into the main event scene as well, because he's been teasing going after the title for quite a bit now, but Congo Kong got in the way. If Eli Drake stays with the company, I hope they put him back in the main event scene as well. There's just so many people rotating around this world title, and I feel like Impact Wrestling has a plan in mind. I hope. Maybe with Eli Drake's contract being iffy right now, their plan might have to be changed a little bit. But I feel like we might be seeing soon, maybe at Slammiversary, maybe somewhere else, maybe a multi-man match for the world title. I get that we complain about it for the X Division matches, but maybe for the world title, it'll work because it's a new, fresh idea, and having so many competitors for the world title might actually work in this specific scenario. But it's all up in the air here. So yeah, that's the rundown of this Thursday's Under Pressure TV pay-per-view, guys. My overall thoughts for this pay-per-view were, I wouldn't know how to explain it really. Now that I ran through the card with you guys and made this audio column, I'm a bit more hyped than I was previously about this show. When they first announced Under Pressure weeks ago, I'm like, okay, cool. Next one night only or Impact special on Twitch. They never really specified if it was on Pop or it was the next TV pay-per-view or nothing. They just said Under Pressure was the next event. So I was like, okay, is it someone one night only I missed or something like that? And then when they said only on Pop, I was like, okay, maybe it's the next TV pay-per-view. And they finally clarified things after like 2-3 weeks of it being announced. And then the second thing that factored into me not being so interested with this is that lots of these matches, this doesn't really feel like a TV pay-per-view. Like, I get that the TV pay-per-view matches have to be a bit more B-grade compared to the big pay-per-views. But even then, like, I don't know, these matches I feel like were a bit too last minute. Not much story surrounded a lot of these matches. The biggest story match here is probably the Knockout Style match. Everything else was just jammed in the last week of Impact or so, which doesn't make it a bad thing. It's just, I don't know, these matches don't feel like a big deal to me and won't affect the big course of things later on. So who knows? I feel like Under Pressure is still going to deliver in-ring wise. I'm still excited as always. It's an Impact TV pay-per-view. It's going to keep my Thursday night busy. It's my favorite wrestling promotion. So yeah, it's going to be awesome anyways. So this wraps up another edition of Fireguy's Predictions, guys. Thank you as always for tuning in. If you haven't had the time yet, check out my Hot Fire that just came out this Monday for last Thursday's episode of Impact. And make sure to tune in next Monday for when I release my next episode of Hot Fire for Under Pressure. We're closing in on the end of the Orlando tapings, guys. I'm super excited to see what they have in store for Windsor. I'm super excited for the Zero Fear one night only. And I'm especially excited for Slammiversary at the Rebel Complex in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where I might be actually attending. So, my name's Fireguy. Thank you for tuning in yet again. And I'll see you guys a little bit later.